Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Trades Talk. I am your host, Pop Culture Mechanic. You can call me Pop for short. And being as such, this is Tuesday. We're going to be looking at the skilled trades, which is a very important part of all of our lives, believe it or not. And I'm broadcasting today on Rumble, Kick, YouTube, and Twitch. So if any of you are out there, thanks for tuning in. People such as Candy Corn. Nice to see you. It's been a while. You did not get to ride an elephant. Well, that is unfortunate. Maybe next time? Yeah, so as this is a show about the trades, we're going to look at what is going on in industry, and we'll see what news is going on. That usually can give you a hint as to whether the economy is doing well or not, and you can see what businesses have in store for us coming up in the future. And then I'll look in on a little bit of an article about the labor shortage of skilled tradesmen, and then I think today we're going to look into a little bit of welding, and just to show everybody that there are many, many different kinds of welding out there. So I hope you'll join me on this journey. We'll have a fun time. Trade's important? Yeah, but I've never met an electrician I needed. Yeah, until you do need them. So I'm not sticking my hand in a panel, I'll tell you that. I'll let them do that. So first off, let's have a look at some news here. So I'm looking over Plant Magazine, which will sort of give us a little bit of information. One of the stories that caught my eye was Nexstar expects up to 900 foreign workers to help bid Windsor battery plant. I don't know why we need foreign workers to help build a battery plant. I'm sure they have enough people right now that can do that. But let's see what this has to say. Nexstar Energy says it expects upward of 900 foreign workers to help build its heavily subsidized battery plant in Windsor, Ontario. The company, joint owned by Stellantis and South Korea-based LG Corp, says the temporary global staff will be part of the roughly 1,600 technicians its external suppliers will use to assemble, install, and test specialized equipment. The estimates come a week after Windsor Police posted on social media that upwards of 1,600 South Koreans would be coming to help build the plant, raising concerns from labor leaders and politicians about how many local jobs would be created by the plant. You bought a $350 steel sword at the festival. Ooh, that is a lot to spend on a sword. Wow. Nexstar says it remains committed to creating 2,500 full-time jobs for Canadians to run the plant once complete, and that the construction company it has contracted will employ 1,600 Canadian tradespeople directly and through subcontractors. Federal Industry Minister François-Philippe Champagne said earlier this week that he expects the company will bring in a few foreign workers to help with the project, but expects the company to prioritize Canadian workers. The battery plant is expected to draw upwards of $15 billion in government funding through incentives linked partially to how many batteries it produced. I still don't see why you need 900 foreign workers. I could see specialists. You bring in maybe, a dozen specialists. There's no reason to bring in 900 of them. At least that's my opinion. Trudeau faces pressure from some Liberal MPs to announce oil and gas cap. What are they talking about now? You can't... As soon as you put a cap on stuff like that, producing anyway, if you put a cap on it, it's going to cause shortages. Liberal MPs are pressuring their own party to publish long-promised regulations to crack down on oil and gas pollution before the month's end. The longer we delay, the harder it will be to bring this into force. British Columbia MP Patrick Weiler told Canada's National Observer in a phone interview. Weiler is among 19 Liberal MPs who signed a letter last month urging the government to release draft regulations to cap planet-warming greenhouse gas emissions from the oil and gas sector, first promised by the Liberals in 2021. Regulations will be delayed time and again. It's getting to the point where it could be frustrating, said Weiler, who spearheaded the October 4th letter to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault, and Natural Resources Minister Jonathan Wilkinson. It calls on governments to introduce strong, ambitious draft regulations before a critical international climate conference kicks off on November 30th in the United Arab Emirates. Weiler said 19 MPs signed the letter, but no signatories are listed because caucus decided names are not public at this time. Individual MPs can connect with the media if they wish, according to Kevin Hemmett, Weiler's Director of Communications. Canada's National Observer contacted over a dozen Liberal MPs late Thursday afternoon, confirmed Ontario MP Lee Taylor Roy signed the letter. Most MPs did not immediately respond to the query. The story will be updated if more signatories are identified. Weiler said he's confident the cap will happen, adding simply he is impatient trying to apply public pressure and express the urgency of acting. Apparently it takes time for regulations to come into force. There's also some ever-present possibility of an early election call. When MPs from the governing party speak out, it can be a very useful thing for ministers who need support to come from the public. Because of party discipline, it's a big deal for MPs to take an argument outside of caucus and go public with it, according to Catherine Harrison, a political science professor at the University of British Columbia. The October 4th letter was publicly released in the midst of the country's wide debate over the carbon tax, another key Liberal policy recently altered to exempt home heating oil for 3 years. Many provinces have households that use oil to heat their homes, but Atlantic Canada has the highest rate of relying on the costly fuel. The change caused an uproar and cries of favoritism in other areas of the country where heat is mostly gas or electric. Earlier this year, Atlantic Liberal MPs pushed hard behind the scenes for heating oil exemption, rural rebate top-up, and funds to help families switch off oil. One of these MPs went so far as publicly criticizing the party for not doing enough for East Coast residents struggling with high energy prices. Ultimately, Atlantic Caucus collective efforts led to Trudeau giving them everything they requested. Now it appears some MPs, including Weiler, have also worked hard behind the scenes to advance the oil and gas emission cap. So he gave in so that he can win the next election. That's what happened. He's like, okay, yep, you guys can have whatever you like, and that's good enough. So now they're all going to vote for him. The importance of the oil and gas emission cap for Canada meeting its Paris Agreement 2030 target is hard to overestimate. It's really a big deal, said Harrison. Emissions from oil and gas sector continue to rise, and only 6 years remain for the industry to reduce its emissions in line with Canada's 2030 emissions reduction plan. Yeah, those Paris Accords that were signed by us, who else is meeting their targets there? Why is it just, why do we have to meet these reduction targets? We're a tiny country. We have a tiny population. I think these politicians are a bunch of idiots, and they're doing the wrong thing. The long-awaited regulations to address Canada's most polluting sector, responsible for 28% of emissions in 2021, was first. It's only 28% of emissions. That's a quarter of the emissions. I don't know what they're going berserk over. Since it's been delayed repeatedly, originally the federal government said details about the form and timeline of the regulations would be communicated in early 2023, but in July the Environment Minister extended the timing, saying Canadians can expect draft regulation before year's end. Well, it's almost here. The oil and gas cap is being used as a wedge issue by conservative governments across the country, including Alberta Premier Danielle Smith's United Conservative Party. Smith has repeatedly said she will not permit the implementation of the oil and gas emissions cap, despite polls showing a majority of Albertans support the proposed regulation. I would argue against that. Polls can be misleading. They don't talk to everybody. So I'm pretty sure that Albertans are just like they don't support the regulation, because you will kill all the cities around here, and yeah, people will lose their jobs, and it will turn into a wasteland if they do that sort of thing. The October 4th letter urged the federal government to publish regulations before COP28 to maintain credibility internationally. Nobody cares. No other country cares whether we're maintaining or doing what we're supposed to do with regulations like that. They got their own stuff to worry about. They're not going to worry about us. 2023 United Nations Climate Change Conference was set to begin November 30th in Dubai. World leaders gather at these conferences to assess global efforts to address climate change and chart a path forward through sometimes sometimes fraught negotiations. Fossil fuels, which are a primary driver of climate change, are at the heart of the most difficult discussions. To me, that's also a misnomer. There is no evidence that fossils turn into oil. They keep calling them fossil fuels, and I believe that's a dumb thing to call them. At a November 23rd press conference at Parliament Hill, Green Party leader Elizabeth May and Christian Michaud, the Bloc Québécois climate change critic, joined representatives from several environmental organizations to call the federal government to release the oil and gas cap before COP28. The day before, federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh also asked the Liberals if they would release the oil and gas emissions cap before the International Climate Conference. And it just goes on and on. Boring politics, and, all politicians are crooked, and they aren't going to do anything that's good for the people. They're only going to do what's good for themselves. Or they just do what they're told by their higher-up bosses. Dairy D-Day. Panel rules clearly in favor of Canada in U.S. trade dispute. Banks set to report earnings strained by economic slowdown. Biden will convene his new supply chain council and announce 30 steps to strengthen U.S. logistics. Here we go. This is one I wanted to see. These companies have laid off Canadian workers in 2023. Let's see what do we got for layoffs. Wave of layoffs last year, which left thousands of Canadian workers jobless, is continuing this year as recession predictions loom and tech sector downturn deepens. These are some of the companies which have said goodbye to Canadian workers in 2023. Absolute Software Corporation. It's a Vancouver-based security software company. It cut about 40 jobs. Bad Boy Furniture Warehouse, the retailer which is restructuring its business, said in November it had cut 20 of its 275 employees and warned substantial further employee terminations in connection with the closure of stores. BCE, the telecommunications giant, said in mid-June it would slash 1,300 positions, including 6% of its media arm. Blamed job cuts on its challenging public policy and regulatory environment, raising specific concerns about BC 11, the Online Streaming Act, and Bill C-18, the Online News Act. Benevity, the Calgary-based company which creates charity-centric software, revealed plans to slash its team by 14%, leaving 337 workers without a job. Best Buy, the consumer electronics retailer, said it would be reducing its workforce by 0.7%, estimated to be about 700 employees. Canadian Tire Corporation, the retailer, said in November it would cut about 3% of its workforce as it faces softening consumer demand. At the same time, it planned to eliminate the majority of current job vacancies, resulting in further reduction of 3%. Canopy Growth, the Smith Falls, Ontario cannabis company, announced plans to shed 800 staff, 35% of its workforce, in February in an effort to help the business reach profitability. Oh, but I thought all the cannabis companies would be just booming and having unlimited amounts of money. What happened? What's wrong there, cannabis companies? I thought you guys were going to be just printing money left, right, and center. The cuts continued in September when BioSteel Sports Nutrition, the sports drink maker Canopy has a major stake in, filed for creditor protection and announced 68 staff will be laid off. Cineplex, the theater chain, has laid off about 30 workers in February. Box office recovery isn't where the industry is expected to be. Clearco, Michelle Romano's e-commerce investing business, said goodbye to 25% of its workforce in January as the Dragon's Den star departed her chief executive role. The company will previously lay off 125 employees from its 500-person workforce in July and then 60 in August. Clutch, the online car retailer, reduced its team from 231 to 81 people in January, with its chief executive Dan Park citing a challenging microeconomic environment. Desjardins Group, the financial services cooperative, announced it was cutting close to 400 jobs in October. Google, Canadian Google employees affected by a 12,000-person cut that Tech Goliath announced in mid-January started being informed of their termination in early February. Hootsuite, the Vancouver social media technology company, cut 7% of its staff, about 70 people, in its third job cut in the last year. Hudson's Bay, the department store chain, said it was letting go of 2% of its workforce, estimated about 250 employees in January. Corporate roles were concentrated at the Bay and Hudson's Bay, the retailer's online and brick-and-mortar operations, and meant to help navigate significant external pressures. Lightspeed Commerce, the Montreal e-commerce software business, laid off 300 workers, about 10% of its headcount. The company said the move is meant to help it unify several businesses it recently acquired and already has plans to hire between 150 and 200 more staff, probably at reduced pay. Lion Electric Company, the maker of electric vehicles, announced in November it was cutting 150 jobs, or 10% of its workforce. Manulife, the insurance company, in November, it has to cut 250 jobs globally. Meta Platforms, the company behind Facebook and Instagram, announced in March it would lay off 10,000 people and cease hiring for 5,000 roles. As the firm embarks on a year of efficiency, the company has laid off 13%, or 11,000 workers. Awful lot of computer and social media platforms, people being laid off. Nordstar Capital, the publisher behind the Toronto Star and a slew of other media outlets, announced in September that 605 staff, 60% of its workforce, would depart its local newspaper chain. Metroland Media Group, which was seeking protection under the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act. Nordstrom, the Seattle department store chain, said early March that it would close all of its Canadian stores, leaving 2,500 staff unemployed. Post Media Network. Sources told the Canadian Press in January that newspaper publisher behind publications like the National Post, Vancouver Sun, Calgary Herald would lay off 11% of its editorial staff. Days later, unions said the company had cut more than 75 jobs by outsourcing the printing and inserting of the Windsor Star. Ritual, the Toronto-based food pickup service, laid off about 40% of its company, amounting to 38 workers in June. It made changes to its fee system. Rogers Communications, the Toronto-based telecommunications firm, confirmed in July that a small percentage of staff left involuntarily since Rogers combined with Shaw. Rona, the Boucherville, Quebec-based home improvement retailer, said June that it was eliminating 500 jobs across Canada in a bid to simplify its organizational structure and adapt to a slowing economy. Scotiabank, the bank said in October that it would cut about 3% of its global workforce as a result of changes in customers' day-to-day banking preferences, as well as ongoing efforts to streamline operations. Shopify, the Ottawa e-commerce software company, laid off 20% of its staff in early May in a move meant to help it more intensely focus on its main operations. Shopify refused to say how many staff would be departing the company, but before it laid off about 1,000 workers last summer, it had roughly 10,000 employees. Stornoway Diamonds, the Montreal-based diamond company, said in late October some 425 workers would be temporarily laid off from working at its Renard mine in North Quebec, a site where it was suspending operations. Suncor Energy, the Calgary-based company, said at the start of June it would cut 1,500 jobs by the end of the year as it aims to reduce costs and improve the firm's lagging financial performance. TELUS Corp, the Vancouver telecommunications firm, announced plans to slash 6,000 jobs in August, attributing the move to the evolving regulatory, competitive, and macroeconomic environment. It's just this fancy way of saying they want to just cut people jobs off and try to save money through wages. Thinkific Labs, the Vancouver education technology company, culled 76 jobs from its workforce. With the chief executive saying it was necessary to move to reach profitability. TVA Group, Montreal-based broadcaster, said in early November it was laying off 547 employees, nearly a third of its workforce, as it contended with declining audiences and ad revenue. And finally, Vertical Scope, the Toronto-based technology company owned by the company that bought Torstar Corp, said in February it was laying off around 60 employees, or 22% of the company's workforce, to help it navigate the current economic environment. And there you go. Those are a lot of people getting laid off. Joe Biden plans to skip the UN climate talks beginning this week in Dubai. Probably because he wouldn't even understand what they're talking about anyway, or he might not even be able to talk at all. Electric vehicle maker Lion Electric cutting 150 jobs to reduce cost. But I thought electric vehicles were the future. Why would you be cutting jobs if electric vehicles are the way of the future? It says here, the Lion Electric company says it's cutting 150 jobs, or about 10% of its total workforce, in a move to reduce costs and improve its ability to reach its profitability objectives. Lion Electric chief executive and founder Mark Bedard says it's a difficult decision, but the right thing to do for business. The cut affects workers in production, overhead, manufacturing, product development, and administrative functions, both in Canada and the United States. Lion Electric designs and builds all-electric trucks, buses, and minibuses. Earlier this month, the company, which keeps its books in U.S. dollars, reported a loss of $19.9 million, or 9 cents per diluted share in its third quarter, compared with a loss of $17.2 million, or 9 cents per diluted a year earlier. Revenue for the quarter ended September 30th totaled US $80.3 million, up from $41 million in the same quarter last year. Your revenue's up and you're still cutting jobs. Well, good luck with that. If you make a good product, like it says they build all electric trucks, buses, and minibuses, people will come to you and want those things. If yours are garbage, they're not even going to bother with you. They're just going to be like, no, we'll go to somebody else. And that's pretty much the news of what's out in industry. Let's move along now to... I found this news article in Nova Scotia. Labor shortages cost Nova Scotia businesses $1 billion in missed opportunities in 2022. So it says here, Nova Scotia businesses missed out on approximately $1 billion worth of potential sales and contracts in 2022 due to labor shortages, according to a new report to be released Wednesday. Duncan Robertson, senior policy analyst in Nova Scotia with the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, told members of a legislative committee on Tuesday that figure is the highest in Atlantic Canada. Labor shortages pose a serious concern for half of our members in Nova Scotia, he told MLAs. Although a shortage of workers is a problem for many sectors, Robertson said the construction and manufacturing industries missed out on the most opportunity due to lack of workers. So the consequences for communities. Those missed opportunities can affect the ability of a business owner to pay down their debt or expand and support their community, said Robertson. 60 cents out of every dollar spent at a small business stays local, he told reporters. If there's not a whole lot of those dollars going in, then it has the rippling effect on the local communities as well. There is no easy way to address labor shortages, said Robertson, but greater awareness about existing government programs intended to get more people working in the trades and more exposure to that option for high school students could make a huge difference, he said. And I agree, it would make a big difference. They've just got to concentrate on the message they're getting out there. Since coming to power, the Tory government has introduced a tax credit for people younger than 30 who enter the trades. More recently, the government made changes to the apprenticeship process and took other steps intended to attract and retain more workers. Efforts to attract more workers. Provincial officials estimate Nova Scotia needs 11,000 new tradespeople by 2030. The government is turning to immigration to try to cut into that shortfall. Officials recently attended a construction-specific event in London, England, where they met with people looking to move to Canada. A government spokesman said 800 contacts were made at the event and 140 high-potential candidates are being reviewed. A group of officials from the province, construction industry, and potential employers will also be in Toronto later this week for a 3-day job fair focused on the construction sector. A lot of newcomers attend the fair. Eva Zappali, Nova Scotia's Deputy Minister for Labour Skills and Immigration, told reporters, "In our work preparing to attend the fair, we've pre-qualified 900 people who are looking for work in the skilled trades and are willing to think about living in Nova Scotia and working here. I would make them sign a contract saying they can't leave the province for a few years. Otherwise, they'll just come there and move along to a different province, guaranteed." A call for a tax review. Robertson said many businesses are paying more than minimum wage in an effort to attract and retain more workers, although some struggle to afford to pay more than $15 an hour. The provincial government could help by addressing the heavy tax burden people face in the province, he said. Brandon Ellis, the senior manager of policy for the Atlantic Chamber of Commerce, made a similar point during the meeting. Ellis is calling on the province to do a review of the tax system. The former Liberal government commissioned such a report in 2014, but did not act on it. Ellis said it's time to take a fresh look from scratch. The landscape of the world has changed, he told reporters. The cost of doing business has significantly increased. The cost of living has significantly increased. That's for everybody, everywhere. An increasing number of chamber members cite a lack of housing as a barrier to hiring staff, said Ellis. He called the government to produce a concrete plan to deal with the issue. The provincial government's recently released housing strategy does not go far enough, he said. I don't think that they come close to the amount of houses that they need to increase and the level of supply to adequately support the labor market. Well, I was hoping you were going to do something better than just reach out to people across the ocean and rely on immigration for your trades. I was hoping you were going to go and make it better for the high school students to get into it and get them out there and earning good wages. Well, that was disappointing. How's immigration working out for Ireland these days? Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff about Ireland, and I'm not impressed. The people there, the Irish people, they should be ashamed of themselves. You know, I don't know what's in the water there, but they better stop drinking the Kool-Aid. Good to see you, Godzillionaire. So yeah, I wish they would have done better for that, but typical CBC News, you know, they don't have really very good reporting at all. This is Canada's national broadcaster, so yeah, take with it what you will. Anyways, before we get into the second half, how about if we let's watch a commercial.
Oh, hey there everybody, how are you? Well, I don't always play video games, but when I do, I make sure to safely make a safety save in a safe environment. And if you don't know how to make a safety save, well then make sure you check out Pop Culture Mechanics, 9 a.m. Mountain Time and 10 a.m. Central on Saturday mornings, where you can learn how to make a safety save that you might be so excited you could dance if you wanna. So, come on and check out Pop Culture Mechanics on Saturday mornings. Going to see you there. Bye.
Finally! Yes! Whew! My God! And welcome back. Yeah, I was going to get into different types of welding. You hear people talk about welding. Oh, welding. Well, there's different kinds of welding out there for those of you that aren't aware. What they've started out with back in the day was brazing, using oxyacetylene and using filler material for their brazing. And this fella here, he's at weld.com on YouTube, and he shows it pretty good here. How you heat up what you're trying to fuse together. He's got his filler material there, his brazing rod. And you can see how he's adding heat and taking it away because you don't want to like melt right through. You just want to heat up both metals, both sides of it, and then heat up the filler material. And yeah, he adds the heat and he takes it away. And he adds the heat and the filler material, and then he takes it away. You'll see he'll keep moving along. You should anyway. Yeah, there we go. You melt the filler material, put the heat on, take it off, put the heat on, take it off. Very methodical. So this is gas welding, they call it. Gas welding or brazing. You're using filler material, you're using the oxyacetylene to supply your heat for the metals and your filler material, your brazing rod, whatever it may be. So this is pretty neat. And this, if you're good at it, this will look really slick after you're done. It should look like a really good joint that he's got. Yeah, look at that. Just nice and easy. The only thing about this is you gotta go take that thing and either cool it down, because right now he's putting a lot of heat into that thing and it just goes everywhere. But yeah, look at that. That's nice. I can appreciate that. He's filling up that fillet there. And yeah, that's going to be a nice weld. So there's that kind. There's gas or brazing. Next up, MIG welding. So you use a MIG gun, and you have a long spool of wire that the MIG gun feeds through, and it guides it. There it is there. It'll also have some inert gas flowing through it as well. Sometimes carbon dioxide, sometimes argon, depending on what you're doing. And that's just a shielding gas to make sure you don't get any impurities in your weld. And as we can see here, this fella, he's going to fire it up there, and he shows you, if you're going too fast, what it'll look like. If you're going too slow, right? You have to adjust your heat and your speed of your wire, and also hold your MIG gun at the correct angle and distance away from the workpiece. You can see he's weaving back and forth there as he's doing his welds, trying to make sure it covers enough of the upper and lower base metals there, or the base material. And he's going back and forth. It looks like he's forward and back, forward and back, forward and back. Okay, and he's got some examples here of what stuff looks like. So if it looks good, or you're too long, you're too short, your angle, you're too fast, you're too slow, you're weaving, you're making circles as you weave, or you're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And this is a good one to go by. So you can sort of compare when you're doing your welds. You can see, because depending on the trade you get into, you will be exposed to welding of some sort, whether it's like using oxyacetylene for cutting or brazing. It's easier than learning weld symbols on drawings. Yeah, all those weld symbols I had to learn. Because being a millwright, you do get exposed to welding, and I have done my own bit of welding. I've been exposed to it for a lot of years, and I have done it. Nothing structural though, because that you need a ticket for that, or nothing to do with pressure vessels either, because you need a special ticket for that. But yeah, this is usually the easiest one. A MIG You just pull the trigger. As long as you have your settings set up, you should do well. As long as you and moving at the correct angle and speed. And also MiG loves to fill gaps. So if you need to fill up a gap, grab yourself a MiG gun. It does really well. There's also TIG welding. This is kind of like gas welding, or the oxyacetylene brazing, as you have your heat source is a tungsten rod now, using with having the electric arc come out of it, and then you add filler material, and yeah, you can control it with a thumb wheel or a foot pedal to get it going. It's not like you have to strike an arc or anything like that. But let's see here. See if they got a good picture. That's what it looks like there. So you got your filler material and the puddle there that the arc makes. And then the filler material just gets heated up as well, and it fills in that puddle. I would like to have seen some better... Yeah, they're just doing animation, but I would like to see some actual TIG welding. It's very good. You can do really good welding with it, high quality stuff, and you can do very thin material too. I've heard of welders being able to do like pop cans, welding aluminum pop cans together. And you know how thin the material of a pop can is. Like that's pretty crazy. We'll stop that there. That's for TIG welding. And then there's one I've seen before. I've only seen this once in person, and that is sub-arc welding, which is really something else. You see the material there, it's like a sand, and that is your shielding from the impurities. But that sub-arc is filling in this gap of the two. It looks like they're doing a pipe right now. But this is sub-arc is always done by machine. I don't think I've ever seen it done by hand. And you can see the reel there. So you've got a reel of wire getting pulled through there. And, you know, it's, yeah, you've got your speed, your feed, 332 wire. That's pretty big. So, yeah, they are just filling holes, like filling the gap with that thing. And I mean, that's neat stuff. And then once it's done, I think you just brush away all the sand. It looks like they're finishing off right now. Or I don't know if maybe they'll make another pass. Now that looks beautiful. Like, look at that. That is just the nicest looking weld you ever saw. And there you go. Going around again, maybe. Yeah, look at that. That's a beauty. That's a nice weld right there. Yeah, so there you go. Sub-arc. In case you've never heard of that before, that's what it looks like. And like I say, it's always done with machine. You have to have something that puts that that sand in there, or that material that acts as the shielding, so no impurities get in there. Let's just go like this now. I have some pictures for you guys, and I hope you will be. I hope you'll like it, because I hope you'll find it interesting, because I had to deal with this at work. Just go to display capture. There we go. Yeah, you guys can see that okay, I hope. So, pipe wrench. Pipe wrench we got there. A rigid one. I believe it's a 10-inch. Look at this crack in it. So, aluminum pipe wrench, big crack in it. So this wasn't done by me. I'd admit it if I did this, but this wasn't done by me. I found this sitting on the bench with a tag on it saying, broken. So, there you go. That is close up of it there. That's a pretty big crack in it. I don't know what they were doing. Might have been using it as a hammer. I can't say for sure though. There's another view of it here. Like, this is a pretty significant crack. Crack kills kids, yeah. Yeah, it sure does. I mean, look at this. In fact, there's a second one. There's this one, and then there's another one right here. I don't know what they were doing to do that. Pipe wrenches are usually pretty robust, especially Rigid brand. Right there, I've used them a lot of years, and they are very tough. But that one, you can see the crack is right through the wall. I have a better picture coming up. Yeah, there's the danger tag. Don't use it. Aluminum 10-inch rigid pipe wrench. There's another shot of it. There we go. There's a better one. I got a better one of it when it's laying on its side. And look at that. That thing is buckled out. The crack went all the way through. And I don't know what those guys were doing. And it looks like over here as well. Like, I would like to know. I would genuinely like to know what they were doing to cause that. That's tool abuse. Like, you're just using a tool for not the right application. Like, it's just blows me away that I had to throw this out and I bought 2 new ones. Same thing, I bought some aluminum ones. But yeah, look at that. And I know I'll never get the full story out of the guys on that. Oops, that's not it. That's a picture of our new compressor. That is the crosshead. But yes. Just remember, if you're in a plant with lots of people, tools are always going to get abused because there's guys that just don't care, or they're angry, or something to that effect. They are going to abuse things because it's not theirs. They aren't going to care. And you're going to be the one that goes to use it next, and you're going to be like, wow, it'll either, you won't notice it, and it'll break when you're using it, and maybe you'll get hurt. But you've always got to watch out for those guys that just don't care, because they will be the ones that get you hurt. And you always want to come home in one piece. You want to arrive back at home the way you left. So don't abuse tools. If something's not the right tool for the job, go and get it. Don't be lazy. And if you don't have it, go buy it. Because then you end up with stuff like this. And that crack is going all the way down the handle. It can keep going. as you can see here. I'd really like to know what it was they were doing. But yeah, just, they might have been using like, maybe they were put a snipe on it, but I don't see a bent handle. Usually your handle might bend if they were put a snipe on it and are just cranking too hard on it. You know, if you're using a 10-inch and it's not working, jump up to the 18. We have them all there. I've got from an 8-inch size pipe wrench all the way up to a 48-inch. So, you know, we have all the ones in the cheater bar and a hammer. Yeah, maybe. Godzillionaire, maybe. But like I said, I don't think the handle looks bent. But yeah, maybe the impact. And weird how it's busted out to the side. Where's a good shot here? No, not that. There, see how it's pulling out? So I don't know what that's indicative of. MGB Technology. Good morning. Well, if it's morning where you are, that's great. It's evening here. Thanks for joining the stream. Just showing some of the damage that happened to one of the tools where I work at, and I'm just kind of wondering what they were doing to cause that, and how they have to treat tools better. You got to keep your eye on the guys, because some guys will just, you know, they don't care. Not their tool. They're just gonna abuse it, you know, damage it, and then leave it for you to deal with. And if you don't notice it, then you're going to get hurt. Those are forged, aren't they? You can see a crack like that in something cast. I thought it said forged. Maybe not. They would just cast these, though, don't you think? Cast aluminum? I don't know. I'd have to do some research on the Ridgid website, see what they say. But yeah, look at that. Dents on the side? Like, that's not normal wear and tear. Almost like they were trying to use it as a pry bar or something. Yeah, it is aluminum, Godzillionaire, yeah. And down here, like, what is this? Like, I don't even get what that's all about. This piece here. Like, using it as a pry bar? It'd be ironic if the crack went through the word rigid. Yeah. Not rigid enough. But yeah, look at this. These almost look like ball peen hammer marks. Except for this one. This almost looks like a grinder mark. Like somebody caught it with a grinder or something. And fresh, too. I don't know. Like I say, some of the things that happen on night shift I never hear about. Like this looks like abrasion from getting dragged through something or run over or something. Or like skidded, used as a wheel chalk or something. I don't know. Yeah, this thing here. That's a big. Yeah. I mean, and look back here. There's dents in the back here. That's got to be from hammering, using the thing as a hammer. Got to be. Just all around, the tool abuse on this thing is just unbelievable. Any lesser brand of tool, you know, probably would have failed a long time ago. But this thing put up with it and stood up Got to break that ice up somehow. Yeah. We have ice chippers at work already. Like I say, you never get a straight answer out of anybody. Nobody will tell you what happened. I'd be surprised if I find out what really happened to this thing. But yeah, look at that. Right through. Cracked right through. Pulling away. I freaking love my camera. The Canon camera I use at work, this thing is great. It does so good for these up-close pictures. It's got an excellent lens. I've had that thing for about, I don't know, 12 years maybe? 13 years? Yeah, what a great camera. It does well. Because you really need those details sometimes. Yeah, and I put it on its front here. Get another look at it. Get you frustrated. You're in the trades. You need to use good tools so that they don't fail you. And when you're out there working on a job, and then you get guys that just abuse things like crazy, and they don't care. They're not the ones that have to use it all the time. So they're just more than happy to break things. So yeah, that is what I wanted to show you guys. Forgot last week, but this week remembered to grab my USB and bring it home. Seen better days. Anyways, that's been put in the scrap metal bin now, and 2 new ones have taken its place. So that's the one thing they don't question me when I'm at, is if I'm like, I gotta buy a tool, and they're like, okay, you go ahead, you buy whatever you need for tools. I'm like, yep, you bet I will. Because we deal with a lot of pipes, so we need good pipe wrenches. And I don't think I have any other pictures of tools. You guys will be happy to know my project for the lid has been successful. And today I got to take some pictures, but I installed my new hookup for our pit. And it's going to be great. I have a swivel cam lock on there. Works really nice, real slick. And yeah, I'll have to see how it works when they get a load of sulfur in, and I'll have to be there and observe what or if any problems come up. So I'm really happy about that. That thing took a long time to do. Took a lot of engineering and prototyping, but I finally got it all together today. So I'll take pictures tomorrow, and then I'll show you guys on next week's show. So it should be good on next week's show. Be able to catch up with that. Anyway, just going to wrap her up here. That was a good show. Another good time. I'm glad you guys were able to come by and have a listen. see some things, learn that there's just more to welding than just arc welding. There's always gas welding, TIG welding, sub-arc welding. There's all sorts of different kinds out there. If you haven't seen it before, well, now you have. If you haven't done it, you should give it a try. It's actually, it's pretty good. Just make sure you wear yourself a respirator, because all those exotic metals are not good for your lungs and will give you trouble breathing. So always wear a respirator. You can get really neat ones that go behind your back, so that you have your welding helmet and that can close fully, because if you wear a respirator, you have to, the cartridges will get in the way if you wear just a regular respirator. You have to wear one that's like a behind the back style, and that will help you out big time with welding. So yeah, thanks for coming by. I want to say thank you to Candy Corn, who was by earlier, and Jay's Daddy, Godzillionaire, of course, MGB Technology. Thank you for coming by. Nice to see you. Anybody else that happened to be lurking and listening, whether you were on Kick or Rumble or Twitch or YouTube, I appreciate you tuning in and listening to me. If you could do me a favor and just hit that like button and subscribe if you can, and you'll see more of me on Trades Talk Tuesday. There's other good channels out there too, people I personally watch and enjoy, like Pacific 4 and 4 and Blaine's Escape Corner, who should be starting to stream right about now. There's Ronan66, DJ Ronnie G, there's Brandon the Anime Guy, the Nerdporeal Lifeform, Angry Canadian, there's our own Whoopa Troopa, who I've seen has killer internet speeds now, so he should be back to screaming and streaming pretty soon. And there's always Punkwaddle. You can find him at Floral from Under a Rock and on Snowdub's channel. I have a Discord. It's called The Shop, because that's where all the tradesmen hang out. We hang out at The Shop. There's some fun times on there. Coming up, Saturday. Saturday is gaming stream. If you aren't aware, I stream mostly on the weekends. I mean, Tuesdays is the exception, but the weekends are for gaming on Saturdays, for retro games on handheld consoles, and Sunday is anime chat. So if you have an interest in anime or manga, I usually am on there Sunday mornings chatting about it. The theme of December is going to be food and cooking. So if you want to see anime shows about food and cooking, show up on Sunday morning, and I'm going to go over a few of those shows. If you want to see retro gameplay, show up on Saturday morning. I'll be playing some Golden Sun, which I'm having a really good time with. It's a fun game. It's for the Game Boy Advance, and it's from 2001. So yeah, if you like that sort of thing, come on by. And then we'll circle around again to Tuesday, which is Trades Talk, and I will be here again. Hopefully have some more pictures and videos and more articles and more explanation of the skilled trades for you. But yes, until then, everyone, I hope to see you on Saturday. And until then, I've been Pop, and I am signing off.